Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson along with Andrew Bone. I hope you enjoyed our signing day coverage right here on BamaInsider.com. Tremendous class that was signed on the dotted line for the Alabama Crimson Tide and Nick Saban. I mean, it's really incredible when you step back and kind of look at everything. Today, we're here with Andrew Bone, kind of talking about post-signing day and some key remaining targets and talking about the two flips from LSU. We got a kind of a recap show, if you will. Bone, how you doing, man? That was quite the grind on signing day.
Yeah, it was. I think everything went pretty well. Throughout the week we were kind of preparing everyone, in case Alabama wasn't able to land anybody else. We didn't want to take away from the number one recruiting class in the country. I mean, Alabama had pretty much hit every single need in this recruiting class, and they were going to bring in or they were going to sign the top ranked class in the country regardless if Keanu Coate or Jojo Earle was added yesterday. So we were really, we didn't want fans to be disappointed if something didn't happen. Now, we had been hearing very strongly about Keanu Coate pretty much since the middle of last week. We had some strong feelings that he was going to flip, but then really the last, from about, I would say, Saturday until Tuesday, things were pretty quiet on his front. We had heard that LSU had, talked to him again, and he was feeling a little bit more confident, or not confident, but comfortable with his commitment, and really just kind of shut things down, at least shut things down in terms of talking to people and saying anything about potentially flipping to Alabama on signing day. And I don't even think Alabama knew for sure if he was going to flip until that morning, until Wednesday morning when he talked to them and said, sent in his LOI to the Crimson Tide. And he even told, we were fortunate to have Keanu on our recruiting show, our all day recruiting show on signing day, and he told us, he said that he informed the LSU coaching staff about an hour before the decision, and then he let Alabama know when he announced the decision. So it was really kind of uncertain going into the day, but we felt like there was a good chance that he could flip. Then Jojo Earle. It was certainly a big surprise for everybody. Probably not when he announced, but certainly if anybody would have posted and said, watch out for Jojo Earle to flip to Alabama on Tuesday or early Wednesday morning, people would have told you you're crazy. We had heard that Alabama was interested. We had also heard that he was going to wait until February to sign, which kind of gave Alabama a little bit of breathing room there, just because they were having to wait for some guys, Xavier Worthy, who they've recruited for a very long time, and that's not to say that Alabama, had to, that they had Worthy ahead of Jojo Earle, and Jojo Earle was a plan B guy. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's more of, Worthy was just a guy who's been not committed, but been interested in Alabama for a very long time. He's been talking to Alabama for months, attended the Iron Bowl, whereas Jojo Earle, been committed to LSU. I know, I get it. Worthy was committed to Michigan, but Jojo Earle was an LSU commitment. Hadn't really expressed too much interest in potentially flipping, but then when everything kind of went south for LSU this season, and all the negative stuff came out about their program, he started looking around. He talked to Alabama, and Alabama was very interested. They certainly said, we like you a lot. We want to do some virtual visits with you. They did that. I was told they did a virtual visit with him. I think it was maybe a week before the early signing period, and it was a really good visit, for a virtual visit. But I think they basically told him, they said, hey, we're probably going to have a spot for you here in February. If you're going to wait until February, that works out perfect for us. And signing day morning, I think he kind of, I think he had decided in his head that he wasn't going to sign, and then signing day, woke up, told his coach, and that it may have happened on Tuesday night, but told his coach, said, hey, you know what? I'm ready to make my decision. Alabama was ready to go ahead and accept his commitment. So things kind of changed a little bit on Wednesday morning. This wasn't something that had been planned the night before or anything like that. This all kind of transpired Wednesday morning. And then they called the Alabama coaching staff and said, hey, we're ready to go ahead and commit. And when he got announced that he was going to sign at 4 p.m., and LSU was not feeling good about it. We felt pretty good that he was going to be picking Alabama, and great pickup for the Crimson Tide. Very electric football player, same high school as Alabama freshman running back Jace McClellan. So he knows a lot about Alabama, and this is a guy who is just a dynamic offensive weapon. You look at this wide receiver class for Alabama, and there's going to be a lot of comparisons to that 2017 group that had 3 first-round draft picks. Well, 2 plus. I fully believe that Smitty will be a first-round draft pick. Regardless, Smitty, all-time, career touchdown leader in the SEC. I think every wide receiver class, from now on is going to be compared to that 2017 group, and this is 2021, and we're talking about how it might be, just as good. And Alabama signs 4 Rivals 100 wide receivers, and it's not even that. These are all guys who are in the top 70. It's not just their top 100; they're top 70 players in the country. So, and all of them kind of bring a little bit, something a little different to the table. And it's going to be interesting to see who ends up returning kicks here in the future. Will it be Jojo Earle? Will it be Christian Larry? Will it could be both. So I think Alabama's very happy with the playmakers that they were able to land in this class, and certainly was a big day on National Signing Day, getting Jojo Earle and Keanu Coat.
Let's talk a little bit more about Keanu Coat, and we have the video interview with Keanu Coat, and we also have an interview with his head football coach. And one thing that he really mentioned was that kind of the allegations, the off the field stuff that's happening at LSU kind of contributed or did contribute to him making the ultimate flip. Your thoughts on that, and also talk about the type of player that Keanu Coat is, and what Alabama football fans should expect from him.
Yeah, you kind of had a feeling that everything that was going on in LSU was going to affect some players. I don't know how much it affected the in-state kids. Guys that grew up, either in an LSU household or an LSU fan, or they've always wanted to play at LSU. It may not have affected those guys as much, but for the guys out of state, that didn't necessarily grow up an LSU fan, maybe they became LSU fans in the last year when they got offered by LSU, and obviously LSU had a great season in 2019, won the national championship, and they were riding some really strong momentum, and then things have just been going south all season long for them, but we kind of felt like some out-of-state kids would be more open to, going elsewhere. And Keanu Coat and Jojo Earle obviously both, flipped to Alabama on Saturday or on Wednesday. I was trying to say signing day, but Saturday came out. But yeah, I mean, Keanu Coat is 6'6". Well, he says 6 foot. It's kind of funny because I know there's some different sizes on different sites. One site has them at 6'4", 210. One site has them at 6. Rivals has them at 6'6", 225. He said he's more so about 6'5", about 220 right now. So we'll go with what Keanu says about his size. 6'5", 220 pounds. This is a guy that got recruited as an outside linebacker by Alabama. What an unbelievable linebacker class for the Crimson Tide. With Deontay Lawson, Ian Jackson, Kendrick Blackshire. Then you add Keanu Coat plus Dallas Turner, 5-star Dallas Turner. I mean, it's a special unit. So, Keanu's a guy who's an excellent pass rusher, very aggressive, gets to the backfield in a hurry. He's a guy that had 11 sacks during his junior season, or during his senior season, and I think he's just adds to that pass rushing unit that Alabama has right now. That's something that Alabama's been missing over the last few years, and we saw that 5-6 years ago, but they've had a little bit of a drop off there, and then all of a sudden, they've been recruiting extremely well at the position the last couple of years, and they're absolutely loaded there for the next few years. And you got to be extremely excited about Keanu coming on board. And Mike Farrell, Rivals.com national recruiting director, he put out a story the other day, I guess yesterday on signing day, said that LSU fans are probably going to be mad at him because Keanu is going to get a very massive rankings bump, when the updated rankings come out in January. And even though Rivals just recently updated its rankings, there were a few guys who didn't get their senior highlights in on time. There was a lot of kids that just didn't get evaluated throughout the season. Just because you can't go see everybody. And, the season was, pretty short. A lot of high schools, had to, cancel games and stuff like that. But, just couldn't see everybody. So you're having to kind of depend on, watching these guys' senior highlight film. And, a guy like Keanu Coate, didn't get a senior highlight film out there until after the new rankings came out. Same with Devonta Smith, Alabama defensive back signee. So both of those guys, I'm really interested to kind of see where they end up finishing up in the final rankings, because I think both of them are probably two of the most underrated guys in Alabama's recruiting class.
Here with Andrew Bone, talking about this electric class, and we opened up the show talking about Jojo Earle along with Keanu Coate. Please hit the thumbs up button. We really appreciate it. That really helps our channel grow. So if you want, to support us, super chat certainly helps out, but so does a thumbs up. So definitely hit the thumbs up. We're also offering up right now this $1 promo code, which will end shortly on December 21st. And the promo code is simply Bama1. You got the number one team in the college football playoff rankings. You got the number one recruiting class. I mean, Alabama's certainly on a roll. So go to BamaInsider.com. Look for the subscription tab. You get your first month free for just $1. So the promo code is simply Bama1. Here with Andrew Bone, talking about kind of putting some final touches on this class, and kind of talking about this incredible class post signing day, just one day after. Thanks for following our coverage. That was a tremendous. We're streaming for 10 hours. It was 10 hours and 30 minutes about. So we did it big on signing day. Bone, a lot of needs were met within this class. So we talked about the wide receivers. We talked about the offensive line a little bit, the Great Wall of Bama. Let's talk about the needs being met and how important that was for Alabama, because you look at the overall class. I'll put up the big board now again to kind of get the overview. Nick Saban really covered all bases. It was really incredible to see all these guys sign early as well. Talk about needs met.
Yeah, signing early was huge, especially for Alabama. You got a lot of recruiting classes that, a lot of their guys didn't sign early. A lot of guys are waiting, from one reason or another. But getting every single one of these guys on board yesterday was, very big for Alabama. I don't think there was ever really any doubt that, somebody was going to wait. Damon Payne had kind of mentioned that he might wait just so that he could sign with all of his teammates in February. But I think Alabama said, "Hey, we'd like for you to go ahead and sign this week." And he said, "Okay, no problem at all." So obviously there was nothing to worry about there in terms of him potentially looking elsewhere. But I think every time you go into your next recruiting cycle, you really kind of put down a list of not necessarily your biggest targets. Obviously you'll have your prime targets, but where are your biggest needs? How many spots do you need to fill at this position, that position, and can we go out and get the absolute best players possible at those positions? So I think we talked about several months ago what were going to be Alabama's key needs in this recruiting class, and we really talked about the offensive line. We talked about wide receiver. We talked about cornerback. I really feel like Alabama just hit a home run at all those positions, even inside linebacker. I thought inside linebacker was going to be pretty important for Alabama in this class. And you look at the offensive line first. It's very rare to see two offensive linemen in the top 10 of the overall Rivals 100. You just don't see that too often. There's 3 of them this year. Heck, there's 13 of the top 27 players in the country as offensive linemen. That's how good of an offensive line class this is throughout the country. And Alabama was able to get 2 of the top 3 offensive linemen in the country. One being J.C. Latham, the number 2 overall player in the country, number 1 offensive lineman out of IMG Academy, and then the number 3 offensive lineman in the country, Tommy Brockermeyer, who could easily challenge, for the number 1 overall spot. Sam Spiegelman, who covers Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas for Rivals.com, came on our show yesterday and basically said, he was pushing for Tommy Brockermeyer, for the number 1, spot in the country. He feels like he's the best player in the country. So, Alabama has 2, very, very elite offensive linemen in J.C. Latham and Tommy Brockermeyer. But you really can't sleep on T.J. Ferguson as well. This is a guy who's 6'4", over 300 pounds, and he can play just about any position on the offensive line. And then you also have James Brockermeyer, one of the top overall centers in the country, out of Texas. Now, James is coming in, a little banged up. He had surgery on his ankle a couple weeks ago, so he's going to have to come in and rehab right off the bat. So hopefully he'll get back, to full strength and pretty quickly. So that's the offensive line. They really did a great job there. I think there's probably still one more guy out there that they would probably going to add here in February that I feel like, but. Then you move on to the wide receiver position, and like I said earlier, you have 4 wide receivers, all in the top 70 in the country. Christian Leary, Jojo Earle, Ajay Hall, and Ja'Cory Brooks, and 3 of those guys are getting there in January. And the only one not coming is Jojo Earle, who just committed to Alabama yesterday. But they're going to have 3 of those guys on campus here in the next few weeks. So that's absolutely huge because you potentially you're going to lose Devontae Smith, potentially going to lose Jalen Waddle. Both guys who are probably going to go in the first round of the NFL draft after you lose 2 first rounders last year. So you're really going to have to reload, and you can expect the quarterbacks at Alabama, whoever it's going to be here in the future with the starting role, they're going to be pretty happy with what they got coming in. Obviously Alabama signed some great running backs last year, and this year was the year of offensive linemen and wide receivers. So that offense in Tuscaloosa is going to be, pretty spectacular, here in the future. I really believe so. And then, you looking over on the defensive side of the ball, like I said, inside linebacker was a huge position of need this year, and I feel like they got some great ones in Deontay Lawson and Kendrick Blackshire. And Ian Jackson, and then defensive back wise, got to start with Kool-Aid, lockdown corner, number 2 cornerback in the country. I think 2 underrated players on Rivals is Kyrie Jackson and Devontae Smith. These are guys who, very elite. Kyrie Jackson, 6'3", 190 pounds. Very physical corner. I think if he would have had, if East Mississippi would have played this season, he would have had a chance to do really well and potentially, get bumped up in the rankings. Devontae Smith, a very athletic kid that can play just about any defensive back position. You turn on his film, you see he's an elite player as well. And you have Kane Williams at safety, who, can move down, can play in the box a little bit. He doesn't want to be labeled as a linebacker at all, but he's very athletic safety, and can potentially play a linebacker role. And then finally Kadarius Callaway, one of the top athletes in the country, just got a big bump in the Rivals 100. Well, at least bumped into the Rivals 100. He's numbered 98 overall, but he was a 3-star. And after Rivals saw him play this year, they felt like he needed to make a big move. So overall, I mean, you look at the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I mean, Alabama just hit a home run really at every single position. We didn't even talk about every position. We didn't talk about the defensive line where they got the number 2 defensive tackle in the country, and Damon Payne, outside linebacker, and Dallas Turner and Keanu Coate. I mean, it's just a special class. I mean, I looked at the totals on the best recruiting classes of all time on Rivals.com, and I think it's in the top 5, top 6. Looking at it overall, it almost feels like it's the best. It could potentially challenge for the best recruiting class of all time, and we'll see kind of what happens over the course of the next month. Who ends up getting bumped up in the rankings? Obviously, Mike Farrell's already said that Keanu Coate's going to make a big move, so that's going to give Alabama some more points. Will Alabama potentially be able to land a guy like Terrion Arnold, JT Tuamola, Brian Thomas? These are all guys that can add to Alabama's class. So we'll see what happens in the final rankings. But all that really matters is how are these guys going to perform once they get to Alabama? They got the guys. They got the guys they want. They may have missed on some, but I think you look at this overall class, there's a lot of excitement. Needs were met. And now you just got to go to work. They all got to. Hopefully, they don't all have to be de-recruited, as Coach Saban likes to say, because they've been propped up for so long. They've been the best star at their high school. For several years. They were probably a star in junior high school. I mean, these are all kids that have been told how great they are by fans, by coaches, by people in the community, by their families. Now it's reality. Now it's getting to Alabama, and every single person there was in the same boat these kids were. They were all elite athletes. They were all highly rated. So now you got to go just compete and work and earn your spot. We're going to see some of these guys as true freshmen that are going to play. There's no doubt in my mind about it. But at the same time, you got to go in there and earn it, because there's a lot of other guys who are there now, who are second team, who are third team, who've been waiting in the wings, and they want to compete. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see which ones end up, kind of sticking out, because there's a lot of guys in this class that have that ability to stick out early on in their career.
Here with Andrew Bone, talking about this dynamic class of 2021. All those check marks represent guys that were signed officially, which is really, really incredible. Just an extraordinary job that Nick Saban and his coaching staff did during a year where it was pretty much all virtual. I mean, I think that's one of the most amazing accomplishments. I mean, Bone sitting here saying that this could be one of the most, heavily touted recruiting classes ever under Nick Saban. I think that says a lot just about the Bama factor. You look at the new stadium, you look at the new locker room, you look at the Strength and Science Center, you look to how these players are performing on Saturdays, and you also look to the fact that these guys are not only playing on Saturdays, then they're playing on Sundays, so it's the whole Bama factor, I think, really resonates when you step back and look at that recruiting class. Please hit the thumbs up. We really appreciate you guys hitting the thumbs up on this video. Remember, you can go to Bama Insider right now, sign up for just $1. The promo code is simply Bama1. Tons of coverage on BamaInsider.com as we continue to push past signing day and into the SEC championship. And then on Sunday, we'll have the playoff show. Alabama, depending on the results on Saturday, we'll await the final results for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Bone, as we continue to talk about this class of 2021, underrated players in this class, in your opinion, guys that, might be a 3-star or kind of an underrated 4-star. I want to get your take on that and, kind of inform our fans out there that are, curious about this class, who the underrated players are and guys that, have that high ceiling, and get your take on that.
Well, it's hard to say there's a lot of underrated players when Alabama currently has 14 guys in the Rivals 100. I even think there's some guys that are in the Rivals 100 who might be a little underrated. Ga'Quincy McKinstry, he's the number 2 cornerback in the country for number 46 overall, but I think he could easily challenge to be a 5-star. I think Deontay Lawson, another guy who could really challenge to be a 5-star type player as well. I think he might be a little under the radar. Jojo Earle is a Rivals 100 guy who Sam Spiegelman came on our show yesterday and said he tried to push for him to be a 5-star. I think he's number 53 overall. But even
these are highlights of Ga'Quincy. Give Ga'Quincy some pub real quick while we got the highlights up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lockdown corner. I mean, he's a very athletic kid, plays on both sides of the football for Penns and Valley, plays, cornerback and wide receiver. He was locked down all week. We finally got a chance to see him down at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Classic, and, he was locked down on offense, or on defense, throughout the entire week. We saw all the highlights, from the Rivals team, and, I think even though he's not ranked a 5-star on Rivals, I mean, he's a 5-star recruit in my mind. And I think, him coming to Alabama early in January, he's going to have a big step up in terms of, preparing himself. So he's an elite player, no doubt about it. But, if we want to talk about guys outside the top 100, guys maybe outside the Rivals 250, who should get more love than they're getting. And one, I think it's pretty clear, Keanu Coate, who's a 3-star, but, like I said, Mike Farrell came out yesterday and said that LSU fans weren't going to like it when Keanu ends up making a pretty significant bump in the rankings next month. Somebody said somebody tweeted at me and said that was just an excuse, that it was just a bad ranking on Rivals. No, it's not an excuse. It's been a weird year, COVID-19. You didn't get a chance to go out and see these kids, and you can't. One recruiting analyst in the state of Florida can't go out and see. 500 kids, in one football season. So it's a little tough. That's why you have these camps and 7-on-7 events and so many different things, because you at least get your eyes on, hundreds of kids. People always try to tell me, they say, well, you can't really evaluate a kid based on, not being in pads and not going up against, somebody, in a high school football game on a Friday night. No, you can't evaluate them that way, but you also, can't go out and see every single kid during the year. So you get a chance to really see them, compete against each other, regardless if they have pads on. You also want to know where they don't have pads on. At Alabama's football camp, Georgia's football camp. Mm-hmm. That's where a lot of these kids end up getting scholarship offers from. Oh, they did so well at Alabama's camp. They got an offer. They must be really good. Well, guess what? They wear the same thing at our camps as they wear at Alabama or Georgia or wherever camps, which is basically cleats and gloves and shirt and shorts. Basically all they wear. So those camps are very beneficial. But Keanu Coat, I think we're going to see him make a big bump. We talked about Devontae Smith earlier. I think Devontae's more in the top 150 players in the country rather than outside the Rivals 100. Outside the Rivals 250. This is a kid who Rivals actually went to go see play this year, and they really like to some of the Rivals analysts really hone in on seeing kids in person before they. Really evaluate, give them a solid ranking. And I know Rivals went to go see Devontae play, and he didn't play that night. It was kind of a disappointment because he didn't play. And, our guy just wasn't going to move him up just, because he didn't play. He said, if his senior highlights come out, before the rankings do, then we'll evaluate him and rank him accordingly. His highlights didn't come out until after the rankings were done. So these are two guys, Devontae Smith, Keanu Coat, that didn't get their highlights in before the new rankings came out, so they didn't get moved up. They weren't just going to move them up just because they were committed to Alabama. They really want to evaluate these kids, first. So we're still waiting. I think both of them are going to move up, and then finally, one other guy that I've been pretty impressed with this football season, and then watching all the highlights from the Alabama Mississippi All-Star Classic is Anquan Barnes. I think he's really, started to transition into a, very good football player, and Alabama's really going to, mold him into, I feel like they're going to be able to, really develop him into an elite player. He's 6'5", 310 pounds. Greg Ladke, who does the videos for Rivals, was at the Alabama Mississippi All-Star Classic every single practice. Filmed him, and he sent us a message and said this was the best lineman throughout the entire week. So maybe maybe the higher ups will see that and determine that he needs to be bumped up. But regardless, I still think that this is a great pickup for Alabama, and it's a great. We didn't talk about the defensive line class a lot. I don't know if we went in thinking defensive line was the absolute most critical position in this class. It's always great to get defensive linemen, but Anquan Barnes, Damon Payne, Tim Keenan, Monkel Goodwine, it's a very good defensive line class for the Crimson Tide.
Here with Andrew Bone, kind of wrapping up National Signing Day with kind of just going over, not really superlatives, but just kind of going over a couple items that we feel needed to be addressed after signing day. This is an incredible class. So as we continue to cruise through the show, definitely hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We appreciate you being here. All super chats appreciated. And of course, thumbs up sincerely goes a long way. We appreciate it. And definitely hit the bell to subscribe to our channel. All the coverage back on BamaInsider.com. And as mentioned, we have a promo right now. As you see at the bottom of your screen, go to BamaInsider.com, use the promo code BAMA1, sign up to BamaInsider.com for just $1. Bone has some a key target story right now, kind of key remaining targets going into the holiday season, into the new year, that you definitely want to check out. So promo code is simply BAMA1 at checkout. Okay, Bone. Let's continue with our next topic, and we're talking which players you feel are going to have the biggest impact. I always think it's really incredible to see these players come to Alabama as freshmen, right? Early enrollees, whatever. And you have the fourth quarter program, which starts in January. Then you have spring football. And then you have kind of the summer period. Some of these guys go back home where they work with their own trainers. And then they come back and they have fall training camp and then they get ready. So the early enrollees have a ton of time to prepare. However, there's a couple guys that come in during the summertime that, because they finish school, whatever it is. And to see those guys play and have an impact. That's really remarkable to me because you look at the time that they didn't get. I can't remember. Was Malachi Moore, was he early enrollee? Do we remember that? He wasn't.
He wasn't, but it's different. It was, this is a weird year, with COVID because nobody really got a chance to go through spring practice.
Yeah.
None of these freshmen went
Yeah,
through
that's
spring
true.
practice, so everybody was in kind of the same boat. But Malachi, he didn't get there until he was originally supposed to enroll early, but didn't. Enrolled in the in May or in June. It's always beneficial to get there early, but obviously we've seen some guys that have really stood out. Not getting there until after the after the spring semester. So there are some big names that are not going to be enrolling early. Dallas Turner, Damon Payne, Jojo Earle. Those are some guys that won't be there. And we have a complete list of who's enrolling early, who's not enrolling early on BamaInsider.com right now because there were some changes. There were some guys who had originally planned to enroll early. Now they're going to wait until the spring. But some of the guys who are enrolling early that I feel like could potentially have a big impact. I think first off, you got to look at the offensive line. And we've seen some really special freshman offensive linemen who've been able to come into Tuscaloosa and make an impact as a true freshman. Most of those guys, it's because they got there in, for the spring semester. And I think you got to look at, Tommy Brockermeyer. You got to look at J.C. Latham. I think both of those guys, are going to have the ability to potentially compete, for a starting role because Alabama's going to lose 3 starting offensive linemen. That's a lot of offensive linemen to replace, on what many consider the best offensive line in college football. I consider it the best offensive line. I'm sure you do, and many others do. So you're going to have to replace, 3 key contributors on the offensive front. And then you got to look at the wide receiver position. Alabama's going to lose, 2 of its, key stars in Jalen Waddle if he decides to turn pro, which we expect, and then Devontae Smith. Who's going to be that next big superstar? Obviously, John Mechie having a great year. Javon Baker's there. There's some other guys that are on the team, like Slade Bolden and a few others. But who's going to be that next superstar receiver? And 3 guys are all coming in early: Christian Leary, Ajay Hall, and then Ja'Cory Brooks. Will one of those guys potentially, make an impact? I think Alabama's looking for, another explosive type playmaker. Especially in the return game. Will that be, Christian Leary? I think he certainly has the capability to do that. So those are some guys, that I'm looking at kind of early on, who can make an early impact. Obviously, I always say, if you're a junior college player, you're recruited by Alabama, you're heavily wanted, then you probably have a good chance to come in and contribute pretty early. And that's, Kyrie Jackson. I think that he's got, the athletic ability. But I'm also looking at Ga'Quincy McKinstry. I think Kool-Aid could also come in, with him enrolling early, and that's very beneficial for him. So I think, especially with Patrick Surtain potentially leaving for the NFL draft, I think we'll all be shocked if he doesn't. I think that there's going to be an opening there for one of these incoming guys to make a big contribution next fall.
All right, good stuff, Bone. Our final topic. We're talking a couple key remaining targets. Alabama, of course, signed 24 guys. It was 24, right, Bone? There was so many check marks. I was worried about my graphic, right? That my poor graphic only had that was it. And I had 2 spots, just in case. And we got those 2 spots filled. So I was, kind of hoping graphically wise that we wouldn't go over that. Key remaining targets. What do the numbers look like? And maybe some guys to keep tabs on as we cruise through the holiday season into 2021.
Well, I don't want to say there's a set number. I don't think Alabama's sitting in there saying, all right, we can only take two more guys. Who are going to be the two more guys? I think a lot of people are putting out there that there's one spot remaining, there's two spots remaining. Who's it going to be? I really wouldn't worry about numbers overall just yet. We'll talk more about that after the new year. I think Alabama's still trying to kind of figure out numbers wise right now, not only for the guys that they're recruiting, but also for the team, who may end up leaving early, for the NFL draft, who may not come back. So there's going to be a lot of things going on in that regard. But there are some key targets that are still out there, guys that we were not expecting to sign during the early signing period, guys who've been planning on waiting, throughout the entire process to, wait until February. Some of them were hoping to take some, visits in January. Even though you can't take official visits, kids can still go on campuses and see everything and potentially spend some time with, not necessarily the coaches, but with players on the team. Some of the guys include Terrion Arnold, Rivals 100 safety, defensive back out of Tallahassee, remains a key target for the Crimson Tide. JT Tuamola, put out a top 5 on signing day. Is going to make that decision on February the 3rd. Big defensive end out of Seattle, Washington. It has 2 West Coast schools, USC, Oregon, but then it goes down to 3 West Coast schools. Add Washington to that mix, and then Alabama and Ohio State. Still thinking it's probably going to end up coming down between Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon for him. Brian Thomas. Listen, I know Alabama has 4 wide receiver commitments right now, but Brian Thomas is still one of Alabama's top targets. I mean, he's nothing has changed in that regard. They're still recruiting him. He still has the same top 4: Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, and LSU. So he's going to wait until probably February to decide. A few other kids that are still out there, but and we listed all of them on BamaInsider.com in our feature story today. But those are the 3 guys that we've talked about probably the most, throughout the year, and there's no change in that regard. Alabama's still heavily recruiting all 3 of those guys, plus a few others. So we'll see how it all unfolds over the course of the next few weeks, month and a half, however long it's going to be until that February 3rd date. And I certainly think that Alabama's got a chance to add even more to this elite recruiting class.
All right. Well, good stuff. I mean, it's there's a lot of information. I get it, to try to absorb, but this is how we roll here on Bama Insider. And of course, you can get all the coverage back at BamaInsider.com. The promo code for $1 just to sign up back at BamaInsider.com is simply Bama1. We appreciate a thumbs up. Please like and subscribe. We'll continue to generate content right here on our YouTube channel. You really helped us grow, and we really appreciate you guys watching tonight. So thank you very much. Continue to stay tuned for more coverage as Alabama and Florida gear up for the SEC championship. We just posted Nick Saban and Dan Mullen's press conference right here on our YouTube channel. And remember, go read more in depth on the key remaining targets back at BamaInsider.com. Remember that promo code is simply Bama1. Have a good evening, my friends, and we'll be back another time right here on BamaInsider.com.